Hi, friends. This is Amber, and this is Pondering in My Pajamas. That's a working title. I don't know if I'll keep it. This is my first time recording anything. I am in my pajamas and I am drinking coffee. So grab a mug of coffee, get comfortable, and get ready to listen to me rant about the show Ducktales for a really long time. It'll be great. Yeah, I'm gonna do this in like one or two takes, so it really is a rant. So, I've seen seasons one and two of DuckTales. I watched like 7 episodes of season three, um, and yeah, it's amazing. It's just superb. When I first started watching it, I wasn't too sure. Sometimes cartoons with more of a feel of DuckTales rather than something. I don't know, I feel like DuckTales is a little more down to earth. Like DuckTales, the Mickey Mouse shows, something about that just feels more down to earth than shows like Gravity Falls or Phineas and Ferb, where things are just a little more crisp and a little more modern, a little more um, just just different. Like you really just feel like you're in a different world. I don't know why I don't feel like I'm in a different world when I watch DuckTales because it's literally a world of talking ducks. But for some reason, the feeling of the show just didn't appeal to me. And I guess I didn't realize that they went on so many adventures. That probably would have definitely changed my mind because it definitely has that Gravity Falls feel once you get into it. And then like the house scenes and the scenes where they're just outside have more of that Phineas and Ferb feel. But for some reason I just wasn't really into it. I think I got that show and then that one duck movie. Oh man, what's it called? I don't know. It's called something about ducks. That's about like hockey or something, like the Mighty Ducks. I think it's a Disney movie. I see it on Disney Plus. I thought they were the same thing, so I was confused and I didn't know which was which. Um, so I've somehow avoided like the whole premise of DuckTales like my entire life. And I had watched almost every other cartoon show on Disney. So I was out of options. It's currently 2020, and so I'm still in quarantine from coronavirus. And I had heard some good things about DuckTales from channels that I really liked on YouTube, so I decided to give it a try. The first episode, I did not like it. I honestly really didn't like it. I think the biggest thing that was a turnoff for me was Donald Duck's voice. Obviously, it's just atrocious and I was like, man, I don't know that I can handle this. But he wasn't a super big character um, as he went along, so I kind of got okay with that. And actually, the other thing that bothered me was Scrooge's voice. And now I'm like, wow, like I love that Scottish accent. Like it just brings me joy just to hear it. I'm like, yes, please use alliteration. Please talk in a Scottish accent. Please just be your wonderful, wonderful self, Scrooge. But I really didn't like it at first, and I was like, I don't know that I can get used to these characters just having such thick accents. Like I felt like it was distracting for me, like to be able to really pay attention to what was going on. But I stuck with it because I just really felt like having another cartoon to watch, and there were definitely parts of it that were redeemable. Like the first episode leaves off kind of on a cliffhanger, where they're going to go explore Atlantis, and Donald Duck has this job where he is going with Flintheart Glomgold to Atlantis, and Scrooge McDuck is going to Atlantis. So it definitely felt at that first episode like that was going to be the big plot of the season. I was definitely really wrong, but it felt like that was going to be the big plot, was this whole like charade of Donald Duck having this job that he would have to fight against Scrooge. Um, but I was wrong. But it definitely kept me going, at least for the second episode. So, right off, another thing that I really like about this first episode is you get to really see a caring relationship between Donald and the three triplets. I feel like that's something that is missing from the original DuckTales and from just kind of everything I do know about Disney prior. Like, I feel like Donald Duck is just really portrayed as this angry person who is obligated to take care of his nephews, but can't really show real compassion for them. Um, he's really just kind of angry all the time, and um, yeah, it's just not super fun. And it's really interesting to me that that's like the kind of entertainment that people really enjoyed when those shows were first airing. Because right now, as where I'm at in this century, I guess it's the same century. I don't know. I don't know time. I'm acting like it was the 1700s when the first Ducktales came out. But for me, like any show that just like survives out of conflict is really stressful for me. Like if that's all that they're banking on is conflict and just like humor involving anger or violence, it just really makes me stressed out. I really can't watch action movies because I just get very stressed. I will literally sweat in the theater. I saw San Andreas Falls in the theaters, the movie with The Rock, and that girl from Percy Jackson in the movie theater, and I was literally so sweaty because the whole movie was so stressful. So I feel like that's something that I really don't appreciate about older cartoons. Like Tom and Jerry gives me no pleasure at all. And I feel like that's something that cartoons do a lot better job of nowadays is not just going off of those things and also just like inappropriate humor too. Like I saw a short from Quack Pack, um, and like Donald Duck was just really googly eyed at these women who um, I think were like meant to be attractive in this episode. And it's just so interesting. Like I feel like people like they just kind of settle for that kind of humor when there's just so many wonderful storytelling techniques that can be utilized and so many like good world building things. So that's something I really like about cartoons nowadays, and I think that that's something that this DuckTales does a really good job at, just being really wholesome, but also having like real conflict, having real plots, real stories, real high stakes, but not relying on anything that would cheapen its value, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's really apparent through just how the writers meticulously tried to make Donald's relationship with the triplets just a little bit more genuine. And obviously, like, he still does have that anger there, and he has that kind of like, just like a little bit of an attitude towards them, but it's mainly out of concern for their safety rather than anger because he has been given the responsibility to take care of them. So I really, really like that. And so Huey, Louie, and Dewey. I was definitely not sure which triplet was which in the first episode. It took me quite a while to be able to tell the difference, especially between Louie and Dewey. But I definitely hear I haven't seen the original DuckTales. I started to watch one episode of it, but honestly couldn't stomach it after watching the reboot. And I don't want to offend anybody who really likes the original because I know it has really good like hand drawn animation. Like it was really cutting edge for its time as far as story goes. So not wanting to diss it at all. It's definitely just not my cup of tea. So I know that in that version, that literally there's no difference between Huey, Louie, and Dewey. They're all the same. It's basically just three clones with different colored clothing. So I know that this DuckTales has gone great lengths to like tell a difference between the three, which is really great. I feel like I really appreciate that, but it took me a while to catch on to that for sure. And I'm trying to remember which triplet was my favorite in the first episode, like what my first impressions of them were. And I think I've gone back and forth pretty consistently between Louie and Dewey. Huey's wonderful, but just kind of that kind of character trope isn't my favorite, but I still think he adds a lot to the trio and he definitely stands out amongst the three. Whereas Louie and Dewey are a little bit harder to tell apart. But as I went along in the series, I was trying to decide which one of them was more ambitious, which one of them like they kind of are both played out as like wanting this like fame, wanting this fortune. So it was hard to like figure out what the difference was between them, but there definitely was. And I think later on in season one, they really hone in on those differences where Dewey is more ambitious and more of an adventurer, more just kind of wacky and has a fun personality, kind of easygoing, but definitely still like really craves that attention, craves um, going on adventures and doing things like that. Whereas Louis is more, he really wants the fortune side of it. He really wants, like, he's very entrepreneurial. I don't know how to say the word entrepreneurial. There, I don't think that's it, but you know what I'm saying. Um, and he isn't lazy. I don't want to market him as lazy at all. I feel like that's kind of what they get at, but that's not a good word for it. I almost feel like, I don't know, and this is really looking into it so deeply, but it almost feels like he has depression. Like he wears his sweatshirt all the time and is just kind of like, seems like a little unmotivated blob sometime, and not in a bad way. Like I don't think he's meticulously being lazy, although he does even say that about himself, so that's probably what they're trying to get at. But sometimes it feels like he just is pretty melancholy about some things. Like he doesn't feel like he fits in with the group. He doesn't feel like he can adventure as well as they can. Like he obviously like doesn't have like the same zeal for doing things as the other ones do. He kind of just feels like that, like, yeah, just kind of that sad, well, not sad. Sad's not a good word for it. That's why I don't say sad. That's why I say more depressed, because it kind of feels like that lethargical side of it. And I think I'm looking probably way too deep into this, but um, that's kind of how he started to seem, with a touch of laziness, because yeah, he never really wants to do anything. But I don't think in a like malicious way where it's like, wow, Louis the lazy one. Um, I just think that's like more of his personality, is just being laid back, just kind of being a homebody. And I really related to this because that's definitely part of my personality, is just being a homebody. And sometimes I feel bad because like people want to do stuff, like my family want to go places, and I just kind of want to stay home, or want to like lay around. And I'm like, man, like I'm like, why don't I want to do that stuff? Um, but I think sometimes that can just be part of your personality. So I really appreciate that about Louis. Just that he isn't always as up for what they're doing, but like he's still a really good member of their team. And they really do hone in on that later on. They kind of introduce this side to him where he is a schemer, but he uses his scheming for good for the family, to be able to help out in their adventures. And it really comes to a head. I I don't remember what episode it is, but it's a pretty important episode with um, Glomgold and all the villains when they come together to destroy Scrooge. I had to take a sip of my coffee. Also, it's 1:36 a.m., so I should not be drinking coffee. But I wanted to make this video, so I decided to drink coffee. So that was a lot of ranting about Louis, and I feel like it didn't make sense, but I'm gonna just keep going because it's okay. Yeah, so that was kind of my first impressions of those characters. So I was confused about Louis and Dewey. I was appreciating Donald's relationship with the triplets, even though his voice really threw me off. Scrooge I wasn't sure about, but he literally became my favorite character by the end of the first season. But I think I was really intrigued about what the conflict between Donald and Scrooge was, because they definitely do hone in on that in the first episode, that there's something going on between them. And even from the get-go, like you can tell that they're really story driven, they're really plot driven, which is great. I think that's something I really like about modern day cartoons too, and what allows them to not rely on some of those, like, for lack of a better term, like cheaper gimmicks, is that it's not just Minnesota, episodic. I will say that's what it is. They're not as episodic. They're more like plot driven. Like there's a underlying story to the entire series. And you can tell from the first episode that that's what's happening. You know, you got these hints at like some feud, some conflict between Scrooge and Donald. You have um, you have Donald getting this job. You have the houseboat blowing up. You have a lot. that like kind of like gives way to the next episode and so forth. And then there's the biggest part of that, the biggest piece of that puzzle, which is Dewey finding the painting with his mom on it. And this was something, when he did that, I was like, okay, I think I will stay along for the ride, because like you could tell that there was going to be like a plot, which I was really excited about, because I've just been blessed to be able to watch really good shows with really good plots, like Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And I was under the impression that that is a topic that's been explored before, like in the previous Ducktales or in the comics, something like that. Like I thought Della was already like an established character in the Mickey Mouse universe, and maybe she is, but I don't think so. I don't think so. And so that's even more exciting that they were adding that. I think part of it was exciting. It's like, wow, like they're doing something new, something fresh. Like that's awesome. And like I feel like in a lot of shows, like Disney shows and stuff like that, like even movies, that's kind of the question that never does get answered. Like there's always orphans. Like there's orphans like in so many things, but you don't often get to find out like what exactly happened to their parents. And like that's kind of always like an unanswered question. Like I think of Phineas and Ferb, like who is Phineas's dad? It's Doofenshmirtz. Just kidding, I don't know. But who's Phineas's dad? Who's Ferb's mom? And that's not a question you ever get to find out. But with this, it's like they explore that, and I think that's super cool. Especially because Disney's so known for like the mom being deceased, and so it's like, wow, they're gonna come back in this show. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I think also from the beginning, Webby. So first impression of Webby. I don't know. I was a little bit nervous. I think sometimes with female characters, like they just lean into like tropes so much. Like obviously before, the trope was kind of like ditzy. The trope was, like, oh, like this woman is just here to have a woman in the show, or to have like a love interest for the male characters. Um, just like different stuff like that. Um, and I'm very thankful that that trope is out. Really thankful for that. But also, I think sometimes now we can get into the trope of having a girl be so different from that on purpose so that you're not that. I just think of a lot of like really quirky characters who are just like a little bit overly quirky, where they're trying so hard not to be the stereotypical girl character that they're now a different kind of stereotypical girl character, um, who is so quirky and so out there, and like that's why she's special, is because she's so quirky. Whereas like the woman in the show should just be special for being a character in the show, like no matter what her personality is. But I think they do a really good job with Webby. I think that just the different parts of her personality coming together are really special. Like she has this love for Scrooge and his family, and this interest in them, and wanting to learn more about them. That's just like really, like, I feel like that's kind of the quirky side of her, and they could have gone really hard with that, but I think it's really well balanced out with just her pleasantness and just her optimism, and just like her down to earthness, her sweetness. Um, like I feel like that really blends well with her, um, like for lack of a better term, obsession with Scrooge and his family, and also like her kind of violent side that is a little bit more ready to fight, and who just like knows a lot about combat, knows a lot about how to survive, knows just so many things. And I think she's a really well-rounded character in all of those ways. Like she doesn't lean too far into anything that would make her feel unreal, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think equally like Beakley's really cool. Like her being a spy, that is amazing. I love that. And like I think she just offers that, like, I think any English woman character who is just like really wise is just a great addition. And I feel like that is almost a trope as well, but it's not one that bothers me as much. but totally okay if it bothers someone else. I feel like, yeah, tropes can be really annoying, but I don't think that they're doing it in any discriminatory way towards women in this show. I think that's something that can be done like by other shows, but in this one it definitely doesn't seem to be that way because the male characters also get the exact same treatment. Like Huey is like your textbook definition of like an intelligent character who relies on facts, who relies on logic, who, you know, like he has this whole book memorized, like a lot of those things feel really familiar. And same with like Louis, like wanting to gain riches. Like I feel like some of that feels really familiar. Um, uh, Dewey not as much. I feel like he kind of like goes in different areas, but maybe not. Um, yeah, so I feel like that's kind of shown on both sides, but not to a point where it's like annoying. I think the only one that does get to me sometimes is Huey. Just because sometimes like you just know what his response to situations are gonna be. Especially when he's already learned a lesson and then it comes back up again and he doesn't remember what he's already learned. Like when in that episode where they're in the train station when there's those little like blob guys and he's like, no, like this doesn't exist, like the book says it doesn't exist, but he's already been on all these adventures with like mystical creatures. And I know they explain that in the episode about like, oh, but these ones are in the book and those ones aren't. But that one just felt a little bit hard. I was like, okay. And so, I think they do that with Louis as well, though, because like Louis learns like not to be selfish, and then in the next episode he like has a scheme that almost like hurts everyone. So I don't know, but that's also like that's true to life too. Like I feel like it takes people so much time to like actually learn something, or in different situations you just respond differently. So I don't know. Like, but none of the characters like are unlikable to me. I think all of them are very likable. Like even the villains, I think are kind of likable. They definitely have a certain charm to them. But I'll think about it and see if there's any character that I actually find super unlikable. Yeah, so I'm kind of skipping around all over the place. I just wanted to give my first impression of those characters. But yeah, so that's kind of the first episode. I forget the like actual like I'm gonna probably skip around in the timeline here, but like I said, just ranting. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee because my throat's hurting from talking so much. Oh, another note, the theme song is amazing. I really like it. It's kind of long, so I usually will skip it, but it's really good. It's like it's a bop, you know? It's one that you get stuck in your head constantly. Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Yeah. Like, I will put that on my wedding soundtrack thing. Like, first dance, Ducktales, theme song. Just kidding. My boyfriend watched the first episode and didn't like it. It's fine. It's not a deal breaker. No, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a really good song. He did like the song though, so that's really good. But yeah. So I think the one thing that really stuck out to me in the first couple episodes, and this could be later down the line, but I think it's in the first couple, the one where Webby meets Lena and they're at the birthday party for Mama Beagle. That episode scared me so much. The like clown looking Beagle boys, they were so scary. Like I could not be alone that day because I kept thinking about it, like it kept popping into my brain. Just everything about them, like the way they looked, the way they whistled instead of talking, the scene where like everything got breezy and like the and dark and the swing was swinging by itself. Like that scared me more than some scary movies have scared me in a whole hour and a half. And I'm being serious. And I tried to look up that episode as to where they got all of those characters from because I was under the impression that they were all from different incarnations of the comics that kind of go along with like the Mickey Mouse world. like I was like, oh, this is so cool because I know like for some franchises like they'll have different versions of it. You know, like they'll have like Superman and then like Supergirl and then like I can't think of examples, but like where it's like just like different versions of them that are like slightly different. Um, like oh no, a good example is like Spider-Man, like in the multiverse, like how there is like the pig version of him and there's like the girl version of him, there's the you know, just those different versions. And I probably am butchering this in terms of like comics. I'm so sorry to any comic fans out there. Please let me know in the comments what this yeah. If like they're probably not the same person, but you know what I mean, just different versions, different incarnations of the same like idea. And so I thought that was what they were getting at, and it still might be, but I couldn't find any definitive answer. Like, so I think they just like made up the different ones for the particular for this show. But I think they might be drawing from that idea of like different incarnations of different characters. I think that's what they're getting at. And I know there's a few different kinds in the original DuckTales. Like there's just like a handful of different ones, but definitely not as much as was in this episode. So I think they just like created these out of their mind, like these scary ones, and whoever made them, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. But also they did a really good job at making it really spooky. But I was like, man, this is for kids, and I'm afraid. But that episode was it was pretty good. I didn't really like Lena at first. Like I feel like she was kind of like, oh, okay, something's fishy going on, and I don't know that I even fully understand what happened with her. Like, is she an actual person who is the niece of Magica, or is she like the embodiment of Magica? I don't know. Like, I feel like they kind of expand on that later on, but I didn't really fully follow what was happening. But I liked Lena more as it went along, obviously, but I felt like she was a little bit like, I feel like I could expect what was going to happen, and sometimes just that personality is just hard for me, like, kind of that, like, I don't know what her, like, that grungy personality maybe in a character can just be, like, not my favorite, but still really cool, like, awesome to see, like, the power of friendship in those episodes with Webby. Like, I'm a big fan of friendships. Like, I think there's, like, obviously, like, who's not? Like, I'm not gonna be like, friends suck. But, like, my heart is just so warmed by, like, the gift of friendship. Like, just, like, so cool. Like, you get to share life with people. And I just really liked how, like, how that was portrayed. Yeah. Sorry I keep saying now you're gonna notice it. You probably didn't notice it the last 20 minutes, but now you're going to. So, I'm sorry. In terms of villains, my favorite is Glomgold. I mean, obviously. I mean, I don't know that really anybody feels like they like anyone else. Maybe they do. But Glomgold's just so cool. I really like how they explore his backstory, especially like in relation to Scrooge. I think that's so cool, and it gives it a little bit of an Adventure Time touch, how they explore the backstory of the Ice King. Obviously, they don't do it as much, but kind of that one episode where he turns into Duke Baloney, like it felt reminiscent of that, and it felt really cool. It felt like it added like a really nice layer to just DuckTales as a whole and just his story. Also, like I like when cartoons make me feel like there's a lot of depth to what's going on. So some other things that really make me feel like there's some depth to what is going on is Gizmo Duck and Darkwing Duck. I think that is amazing. That's incredible that they included them in the series in such a good way too. Like, especially Darkwing Duck, just like the lead up into him being a character in it, like it being a TV show in their universe is just such a good idea. It made the world of Duckburg just feel more real. That like you get to see these shows that they're watching, and it's Darkwing Duck, and also like that Ottoman Empire show. Like that's amazing. But a really good build up and like getting to see the actor who played Darkwing Duck, and then like the whole movie studio scene is just really cool. and the whole, like, when they're in the dressing room, the guy playing Darkwing Duck, and there's all this, like, merchandise. Like, that was so funny. I think that was, like, the scene that made me laugh out loud the most, just when they're trying to, like, avoid everything. Um, it's just, like, really good world building, and, like, such a good way to incorporate that. Like, I love Easter eggs. I love when, like, universes are connected, and that was just such a fun addition to the series. And they definitely leave it off where those characters can come back. I do wish at the end of that episode, though, that they would have used that footage for a film, for, like, the film they were trying to make, rather than it being Dewey being recorded on there. Like, that was, like, it just felt like a really good payoff for the intense scene to be like, oh, cool, and they get to use it for the movie. That just kind of fell through with Dewey's little gimmick there, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't extremely painful. Yes, it was. But that was really cool. And I'm excited to see where they take, like, this kind of evil version of Darkwing Duck, and then the new incarnation of Darkwing Duck. Gizmo Duck, also super cool. Like, all of these different characters just give the show such different feels at different times. Like, it just feels like a really well-developed show, which is just awesome. And, yeah, I really like Gizmo Duck. He's really cool, and the fact that he's voiced by Lin-Manuel Miranda is awesome. I don't have as much to say about him, but I really appreciate him being in the show. I feel like that just, like, makes it so fun. And one other thing that I've noticed that they've added, and I know there's been so many countless other things, or two more things, I'm kidding, two more things. So the season 3 episode, Quack Pack, is just so good. Like, I'm like, this is cool. Like, such a cool concept, because I thought when I started watching it that it was just gonna be, like, they weren't gonna, like, acknowledge that the episode was different. I thought it was just gonna be, like, a little homage to, like, the older shows, and just kind of, like, an easy episode to produce. But then it, like, went into the story that Donald had rubbed this genie lamp, and I thought that was so cool. So cool that they had, like, the different theme song, and they had like, different outfits, and it was called Quack Pack. Like, such cool homages to those shows. And, like, if you're gonna reboot something, I think that's, like, a really good way to go about it. Like, to just have a lot of really cool things like that. Like, I think sometimes, like, reboots rely too much on, like, making modern day references that are more vague, like, just about smartphones and about, like, dabbing. And, like, Ducktales has a bit of that, but I think, like, something that modern shows could do so much more with is, like, really, like, gathering from the resources of their, like, ancestors. And Ducktales does that really, really well. So that was just such a fun episode, and then Goofy being in it was so cool. I love Goofy, and it was just in such a meaningful way, and I really hope they bring him back, and I hope they continue to do more references to like, that gang. And I'm not exactly sure how the canon of, like, that franchise works, because I expected to see them a lot more, because, like, they have the three Calaberos, however you say that. I'm sorry, I just butchered that. They have them, and, like, it's, like, cool, like, Donald saying these are his college friends, but, like, I think Mickey Mouse is, like, his best friend, so shouldn't we see him? But I don't know if that's how it works. Like, I don't know if it's the same universe. Like, I don't know if it's the same, like, timeline, like, that Donald Duck and this Donald Duck. But I did really like the reference to Mickey in the one episode where he is shipwrecked and he turns this watermelon into Mickey. Like, that was so cool, so fun. Just such a good idea. I'm gonna take another sip of coffee. Wow. But yeah, that was so fun and so good. So I'm gonna give a quick top 10 favorite moments from Ducktales. And then I'm going to get into another big chunk about Della Duck, because obviously that's a big section of the show, and I want to spend some time on that. But I want to take a break from this to give you a little top 10. So, number one, I really liked the theme song takeover of Glomgold. I thought that was really cool. How they started out with like really good CGI and like effects, and then at the end he was like, "We ran out of budget." Like, theme song takeovers are already really fun, and then to like add that was just really cool. Number two, I really like the presence of the beverage Pep. I think that's what it's called, is Pep. I could be wrong, but I think it's Pep. I just really like when shows have like their own branded items in them. It just like makes it fun, and like again, like just has like another world building quality to it. Number three, I really like Scrooge just as a person, as a character. Like literally, he just makes my heart so warm. Like, he's just so fatherly and like wise and smart and smarter than the Smarties. He's just really cool. And I don't know how to say that in enough words to express how I feel. I really don't. So I just really like Scrooge. And his accent is like one of my favorite things about him. So that really grew on me. And I think David Tennant does a really good job at voicing him. When I watched the episode of the original DuckTales, the Scottish accent definitely wasn't as defined, but I only watched a little bit of it, so it could have grown as it went along. But I like that about him, and I like how he got his start in like polishing boots. Like, that's so cool, and I like his story, and I like how he interacts with his family, and I think he would just be a really fun uncle to have. Yeah, so those are three. Number four, I like just kind of all the merchandise that's featured in the show. Like when they go to Mount Everest and there's like shirts that say, "I survived Mount Everest." Like, that's really fun. Or maybe they say I didn't survive. One of those two. But I really like both of those things. I think they're really cool, and I appreciate them. I don't know why I said both of those things. I think I only mentioned one thing, but I like that they do that. Number five, this is another reference to another Disney thing, which I didn't mention before, but when they have the rescuers come in season 3, and it's in the scene with Launchpad, that's just awesome. Like, just another thing where I'm like, wow, like DuckTales did a really good job at incorporating so much and just making it really fun for the viewer. Like, I feel like there's never lazy writing. Everything is really intentional. Same with like the animation. Like, everything is just really, really well thought out, and I think that's something that we can all appreciate as viewers. Number 6, you can tell I'm making these up as I go along because that's the purpose of these rants. Just wanted to talk to you about these things. Number 6, I enjoy about DuckTales. Oh, just Launchpad as a character. He's so fun. Literally so fun. Like, I love Launchpad. He's so funny. He's probably the funniest in the show to me, honestly. Like, he definitely, like, I think all the times that I've laughed out loud at the show, it's been because of Launchpad. He's just a great character, like just a really lovable idiot, you know, just in a good way. Um, yeah, he's hilarious and really fun and a good character. Number 7, I. This is just a really random, like, remembrance, but how Scrooge likes nutmeg tea. It just sounds really delicious, and I want to make it sometime. It's just black tea with nutmeg and a touch of cream, and it sounds tasty. I'm very enticed by any recipe that's in a show, even if it's nasty. I just want to like try everything. So I will try that at some point and share it with you, maybe, whether I like it or not. But it sounds really good. Um, let's see, an 8th thing that I enjoy about DuckTales. There's so much to enjoy. I like how they go to different places, so they've been really able to build like a good repertoire of locations. Like how they go to like Mount Everest, they go to Atlantis, they go to like the little casino sort of thing in that one episode. They go to just like countless places that all look pretty different, and I think that's really fun. How you just get a wide variety of things, and you get a wide variety of just be able to see these characters in different situations. Number 9, unless I already said 9, I don't think I did. I think I said 8, but number 9. I like how I don't really know. Let me think. Let me think. Oh yeah, I like how the brothers like really love each other and they don't rely too much on conflict between the brothers. There's definitely a little bit of that here and there sprinkled in, but they don't rely on like that conflict too much. As you can tell, I don't like conflict. And it's kind of like Phineas and Ferb where they just really wanted the relationship between Phineas and Ferb to be like unproblematic, and I think that just gives a really good backdrop for other things that are more exciting to happen. And I think DuckTales does a really good job with that. But they definitely have like a realistic amount of it in there, just since like obviously if you have triplets, like there's gonna be conflict, you know? Um, so I think it's a realistic amount, but not too much as to be like distracting from what's happening in the story. And number 10. Number 10. What else do I like? Number 10. I finally thought of one. So I really liked the episode where it was either Louie or Dewey. I can't it was Dewey. It was Dewey. He went back in time and he met Donald as a child and his mom. And just like seeing Donald as a child and seeing him played out in the way he was. So he is definitely like the stereotypical like depressed character. If Louis wasn't, Donald definitely is. And I feel like they kind of feel a little similar in that way. But just seeing little Donald in like a flannel with a fringe playing a guitar is just like fun and cool to see him have a, even though it's like, you know, it's a little bit of that stereotypical and it's only for a glimpse, but just seeing him get to have a backstory is really cool rather than him just being this angry person for no reason. It's cool to see like kind of his journey with that, like with that, and then also with him going to anger management classes that you find out a little later on. It's just cool. And I like how they are developing Donald. And I think that episode in particular was just really fun. I just really like time travel. And I like how Della and Donald won't let Dewey tell him that he is from the future. Like, they're like, dude, like, you're gonna break the space time continuum. Like, obviously, they've had a lot of adventures with Scrooge. And you can just tell. So that's just really fun. And one other thing about Donald that's really fun in the reboot is his relationship with Daisy. Just how they introduce that. You can just tell it's a really mutual thing. And that's just something I really appreciate because that's definitely not something that the originals, like anything having to do with Donald and Daisy, has been able to do. And it's really cool to see them have a real relationship. And yeah, those are my top 10. I will give a bottom 10 here after I talk about Della. So Della. Yeah, so this is kind of the big question mark the whole series. And it's like I think they did a really good job at building this up because at first it kind of felt like you were just going to find out what her story was. Like I was really under the impression that she had passed away and that they were going to kind of keep it that way. Um, and they very slowly start to give you answers about this. So Dewey's kind of on this quest to find out more about his mom, but really everything kind of comes up empty until he does tell his brothers about it. And that's something, and I'll mention this in my bottom 10, but that was something I didn't like. I don't like when they split characters up like that, where like one kind of has their own quest compared to the others. But it kind of did allow the progression to be a little bit slower because Dewey was trying to figure it out on his own, and he didn't really start to make more progress until his brothers knew about this quest. And like it really like this was interesting to me because it really seemed like they kind of gave up on finding her. Like you do get the payoff of their quest by having Scrooge admit what had happened to them. So that's kind of the payoff of the quest. But it really feels like they forgot about their mom, and then she just kind of comes back, which is kind of cool. Like I don't know, I think I did like how they did it. It felt a little more realistic. Being trapped on the moon can be realistic, you know. Um, but it was like kind of like it kind of happened really slow and then it happened really fast, which didn't really bother me, but it was just like an interesting way to go about that. I personally didn't love the scenes on the moon. I just don't really like aliens. Maybe that's just a preference of mine. I just don't care for aliens, and I feel like every storyline containing aliens is just really similar. Just with any show. Like, I feel like Phineas and Ferb, like, anytime there's aliens, I'm like, okay, I feel like I know what's gonna happen. Even with their new movie that came out. But, and like, alien character designs just don't look as detailed as anyone else ever, I don't feel. Like, the ones in um, Ducktales just feel underdeveloped compared to the other characters. But I did like the first, like, section of Della on the moon, just her trying to figure out how to survive, figuring out how to fix her rocket ship. I thought it was kind of gruesome that she had to like cut off her leg. That was crazy. Like they obviously don't show her doing that, but like it had to have happened for her to put on a false leg. Like that's really cool. But also I'm like, dang girl, that must have hurt. But Della's just really cool and she's just a really great character. I really like her personality, like how she like remains pretty optimistic throughout her 10 years on the moon. Like 10 years is so long, and just her optimism, and even her optimism when she's with these other people, like when the moon people do finally find her, like she's still just joking around and like being a good friend to Penny, all the while she's been there for 10 years and like misses her sons, has never really met them or anything. So she's just like really cool, and how she like figures that out. I kind of wish when she left the moon like that storyline would have just been finished. Like I didn't really like that they came back and like had the moon people attack. It wasn't bad. Like I guess that was pretty good because you didn't want to just have this whole build up of Della's story and then she's back and then it's like nothing ever happened. So I understand that. I just didn't love the moon narrative. But I did think it was really cool that like Della was alive, and we got to see her come back. We got to see her journey. We got to kind of not have any idea where she was. Like I feel like we were just as confused as the triplets were, about where she was and if she was going to come back. And that was really nice because I think sometimes it's easy to be able to guess on those sort of things. So that was pretty fun to not really know and then to kind of get to see her come back. And like I was like really on the edge of my seat, like, oh my goodness, is she gonna be able to come back? Like what's gonna happen? I was so upset. Like I was almost visibly physically upset when she did finally come back and Donald immediately went to the moon. Like that really got me. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, they haven't gotten to see each other for 10 years and now she's back and he's gonna be gone. Like, that really got me so bad. And I was so mad, but it's okay. Um, and then, like, she's not even that concerned about not seeing Donald. Like, I feel like when she gets back, she should, like, want to immediately go find Donald on the ship or something. Like, find a way to get to him. Like, that's your brother. And you want him to know that you're back. Like, he's been missing you for 10 years. But yeah, so that was a little bit interesting, but not too bad. And I don't think they sometimes like I feel like when some a character returns like that and it's like wow we're so excited you're back, and then everything falls apart and it's like oh like it was better when you weren't here. I don't think they relied on that too much. Like she definitely had to learn how to be a good mom and it's like still in the process of doing that, but it wasn't like super pronounced, which is good. Like they got to have like that reunion, which was really really sweet. Like I really cried. Yeah, just when they came back and she was hugging all of her sons. And of course, you had like Louis' a little bit reluctance to her being back, but they didn't do any of these things to a point where it felt forced, and I liked that. Um, yeah, so I think Della is really cool. It was awesome to kind of have that anchoring thread throughout the first two seasons to really have it be a plot driven show. I think that was what made it for me. Like if it didn't have an underlying plot, I would not like it nearly as much. But having that thread from episode to episode was really cool. And obviously in season 3 they switched to this FOW organization. So I'm really excited to see what that's all about as it goes along. But yeah, that was super fun. Oh, I remembered another thing that's in my top 10. So now it's top 11, but number 11 is Storkules. He's just great. He's just great. I love how he loves Donald and he's not like taken aback by any of Donald's like dislike for him. Like it's just so wholesome and I'm like, Storkules, you're a cool guy. He makes me laugh kind of like Launchpad does. I'll do a quick little minute about romance in the show. They definitely don't rely on romance at all for story, which is great. It's really nice. I think that's something that's really refreshing about kids shows is they don't rely completely on romance. They don't rely on crude jokes. They don't rely on violence, and like it just really gives an opportunity for the story to be really deep, really rich, really funny. Like really, I feel like so many kids shows are so much they're so much more clever than adult shows. Like adult shows can just kind of rely on those other things where kids shows like can't do that. So they really have to be clever. They have to have intelligent jokes that are really witty and fun and just cool Easter eggs, really good world building, really good action, storylines. Like that is so cool. And I love kids animation because it does such a good job at that. And I'm really hoping that adult animation can move into that too cuz like I feel like kids shows really help to teach kids what it means to be a good not to be a good kid, but just like what life can be, like just the adventures that you can go on, like the relationships you have. And adult shows really show what it means to be an adult in such a bad way. And like I don't think that's what it means to be an adult, you know? Like I would much rather like embody the things that are showcased in kids cartoons than adult cartoons. And I just want adult animation to do better, honestly. But that's just a tangent. But so romance. I think the relationship between Scrooge and Goldie is just really fun. Definitely, it's like interesting. It's like what exactly is this relationship? Like, what's happening here? But it's fun. I like it, and I think it's cool. And it's not something they rely too heavily on. But she's a fun character when she is on there. And I think they're a good match. Well, obviously, like I don't know if they're a good match because it's kind of like she does kind of step over the line of being pretty mean sometimes. But I feel like Scrooge definitely like needs someone who's a little bit feisty. But also, I think he could be sweet with someone who just like really appreciates him. So I don't know, but she's a fun character, and they haven't honed in on any like romantic feelings between Webby and any of the triplets. I feel like at times they really focus on the relationship between her and Dewey, but I think it's mainly friendship at this point. I mean, they're young and like they're living in the same house, so I feel like they probably see each other more as siblings. And I kind of like that they haven't like made that a thing. It's really just allowed for such a wholesome bond between the three of the siblings and Webby, and I like that. They have Donald and Daisy, which is just really good in this reboot. I really like it. I think that they're a really good match. I think like that episode that they meet each other is just really well done. And I'm excited to see where they go with it. So one relationship that I would really love to see that I don't know would happen is Della and Launchpad. Like they're both pilots. Launchpad is so fun. Della is so fun. Like I feel like that would be such a good match and just like yeah, I think that would be a really a really good, I think they'd be a really good couple, but I definitely see why they wouldn't do it. I don't know if there's like a age difference between them. Like I don't know if Della's older than Launchpad. They did kind of hint at a relationship between Penny and Launchpad, but they never brought it back up in season 3 as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's just my short little thing on relationships in the show. So now I'll give a bottom 10 and then I will wrap up. This has been a really fun video, and I hope that you've enjoyed my ramblings about DuckTales. Let me know your thoughts. Well, I'll give my bottom 10, and then I'll give like a general summary of my feelings about the show. Bottom 10. Number 1, I don't like how they separate the brothers so much. It's always like 2 of them are together on an adventure, or like one of them is with someone else, and I don't like that. I'm like, please just stay together. But I understand they do that probably to like build the different characters, but I'm like, stop. I want them to all just be friends and together and not separate. So I don't like that. Number 2, I feel like I was thinking of more, but now I really can't remember what I was thinking. But number 2, yeah, so I guess kind of in the same vein, I've already mentioned this, but I didn't like how Dewey was the only one trying to find their mom. Like, I feel like that was pretty out of character. Like, I don't know that there was any reason for him to keep that from his brothers. Like, they've already experienced so much pain because their mom's gone. So I think, like, any hope that she could be anywhere, like, or that, like, he has any information about her would be good. But, I mean, I guess they do address that. Like, the other brothers are like, what, you haven't told us? So that's okay. But I would have preferred, like, the 3 of them to find it together. 3. I don't like Magica, and I mean, she's a villain, so it makes sense for me not to like her. But I think she's the least likable of the villains. Like, at least with, like, Mark Beeks, like, he kind of has some fun stuff surrounding him. You know, Glomgold is, I think, just a likable villain. But Magica just feels like, I don't know, just a little bit too, I don't know, too, like, not solid. Like, she just kind of, like, it feels like they have to do a lot of explaining to, like, explain why she's there and to explain, like, how the whole thing works with her being a shadow but coming back to life. Like, it just doesn't feel like it fits as naturally. And just as a character, I'm like, okay. But, yeah, that's, like, kind of a nitpick. But, yeah, that's 3. Number 4. Well, DuckTales is such a good show that I can't remember anything else that I don't like about it. So I think that's pretty telling. Yeah. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else I don't like about it. So I'll just go ahead and give my summary of, like, my feelings on the show altogether. I just think it's a really, really good show. Just so well written, very thoughtful, very intentional about just having so many fun Easter eggs, bringing characters back constantly to be in different scenarios. They have like a pretty wide cast of characters they can use. Has really, really fun storylines with the family and just them bonding and getting to know each other and just being a really good and solid family. They go on a lot of really fun adventures with awesome, like, lore, awesome, like, mysteries to solve and things that, like, the viewer can kind of go along with them in that mystery. There's also just kind of the more slice of life stuff between different characters that's really fun. There's a lot of really good and witty humor. There's really good world building. It's just really good. And I've heard that just as a reboot in general, it's such a good reboot because it knows its roots. It knows its roots in DuckTales, it knows its roots in Disney history, and it really sinks deep into those things. It doesn't try to be something that it shouldn't be. It knows where it's come from and it knows where it wants to be. It's not just kind of like, okay, let's tell a story again but throw in smartphones. It's like, no, like, we're going to be intentional. We're going to make fun of ourselves sometimes. Like, I feel like they do that. Like, they'll make jokes about, like, oh, the blue one, because they know in the original DuckTales, like, no one could tell the 3 apart. So they just do such a good job, and I really appreciate the writers. I appreciate just the different art in it, the different backgrounds and settings, and the plot. That is so good. The plot, I love a plot line in a cartoon. I just love the wholesome fun that it is. It just offers such a good experience to whoever watches it, and I would recommend it to anybody. Let me know your thoughts. How do you think it compares to the original? Do you like um, do you like the things that I said I liked? Do you dislike the things I said I dislike? Do you disagree with anything? Is there anything cool that you've picked up on in the series? Anything that's like an Easter egg that you have found? Any of your thoughts? Let me know down below. And I hope that you've enjoyed this time together, this pondering in my pajamas. I hope it's been a relaxing and fun and great time for you. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.